Hey folks, welcome back to FreepCast. My name is Rob Murray. I'm here with managing editor Joe Spear. And before we jump into the news, Joe, I wanted to was watching a TikTok today about a guy who was in Minnesota showing the lack of snow at a playground where a hockey rink is. And I was wondering, when I was a kid growing up, there was 2 feet of snow everywhere. And we're playing outside hockey. Did you play outdoor hockey?
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? You got to check out the Star Tribune because they have a little widget now. Was the winter worse when you were a kid than it is now? Exactly answering that question. And you know what? You're absolutely right. There was more snow. It was colder. There was more below zero days. We're all right. We're all thinking of that right back in the 60s and 70s when we grew up.
I don't mind there not being as much cold and snow. The
I
snow
don't
doesn't
either.
bother me. I mean, the snow's not a big deal. It's the cold that I
Yeah.
can really do without. But did you play hockey in the days when your parents were like sitting on snowbanks
Yes.
on the outdoor rinks and the kids were inside? It was like changing lines by having the kids go in and out of the warming house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Who
great.
does that? What parent sits in a snowbank nowadays, gets freezing cold, watching their kids get freezing cold? In the early days of the playground hockey league, I was a goalie, so the equipment was very rudimentary, and it hurt when you got hit by the puck.
Especially in the super cold.
Yeah, and I had a glove, and you wore gloves under your catching glove, but it was still cold, and you make a save, and ow, it was just like, who does that? But
Moms in the warming house with hair dryers
yeah,
on your feet. Yeah.
yeah, I remember.
Those
Yes,
days.
that is, but there's factual basis to what you say,
I will look that up.
and it's pretty cool. Yeah, they did all the analysis on the temperatures and the snowfall, and there was a bunch more snowfall usually, but yeah, it looks like we're having kind of a mild, so to speak, snowfall wise.
Yeah, for sure.
We had a white Christmas, and a lot of people like that, but then it kind of went away. And so here we are in winter, and talk about some stories in the news last week. Interesting. I guess the MnDOT doesn't have too much trouble with the snow cutting down trees on Highway 22 because they're making for that big expansion. And some people were not exactly excited about it. If you drive that road, you see how many trees are being cut down.
I have gone down there, and it's if you haven't been down that road since they've done all this, you should take a ride down there. It's very different.
Piles and piles of wood and wood chips and just clearing everything, getting going on it to widen that road, right? They're going to widen it, so they got to take some trees out.
Yeah.
So some of the neighbors, thought, hey, do you have to cut that many trees? And is there a chance to replant after you do cut? Our article by Renee Berg, talked to the MnDOT officials, and they said they're not, being indiscriminate. They have to take trees because there's going to be a road, and there's going to be a bike path. So that'll be cool too.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you can petition the county when you do these projects to replant some trees. Apparently MnDOT doesn't do it. But the answer to that question was it's not feasible to replant some of the trees. So we talked about that project before, and it's kind of a shame because some of them are really huge trees, and some of the people who live along the roadway, they live back ways, right? So it was kind of blocking the sound and everything of the highway for them. So now their homes are not going to be quite as quiet as they used to be. Anyway, got a lot of people talking. Speaking of transportation, also, there's big discussion. Mark Fishnick did a story recently. There's a coalition of governments in the state trying to figure out passenger rail. And one of the proposals was to have passenger rail between Mankato and the Twin Cities. And all the governments kind of have to sign on and kind of say, yeah, let's go for it. Nobody's committing any money yet, but Mankato does not kind of even want to take that preliminary step yet. And so some people are raising some eyebrows. I know there was some emails we got saying passenger rail would be really cool, but also good for the environment, right? You take cars off the road.
Raise my eyebrows.
Yeah.
I was wondering why we aren't even going to consider it.
It sounds like it, although if you read deeper in the story, it was like, oh, we still have time if it really gets serious.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it sounds like they could use a lot of the existing rails, although when they throw out dollars, it looks super expensive, like 70 million or 100 million or whatever. But I think people used to love traveling by train. And, if you can the more we can do to take cars off the road and reduce global warming and climate change, the better. And there's a cost to that, right? There's the climate cost. We see all these wildfires and flooding. And so cars do carry a cost. When we were in economics school, I'm going to throw one at people here. They were called externalities. So these are the external costs that don't really get figured out. And they're just like the cost of pollution.
Because you can't figure it out, right?
Externality. Okay. Well, you can with all these disasters now, but
okay,
you don't. And this is why in Europe they've had high gas prices for a long time, because they're trying to discourage the use of vehicles so you don't have all these externalities, all external costs that nobody, you don't know they're there really, because there's not a check you write every year. Externalities, $500,000. So, economics lesson.
I've never heard that term before.
101.
When I read that story, I was surprised that there seemed to be the vibe from the council was we're just not interested in this. And I'm wondering why they wouldn't just say, we're going to look into it.
Yeah.
Knowing there's a person there taking notes and they're going to put this in the paper.
Yeah.
Everybody in our Facebook page was like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? We aren't going to even consider this. So hopefully,
I think
that'll change.
The city manager, Susan Arntz, said there'll be time for us to jump on board if...
It's just not a good look to just say, we don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, I hope we're raising the awareness of climate change everywhere. In every story we do, it should be part of it. And, I've tried to write opinion pieces and editorials about these things that cost us. They're not even, it's getting harder to have home insurance in California and Florida. Some people are going without it because there's so much disaster, so many hurricanes, so much destruction.
I'm also a little skeptical about how much it would be used. I know there's, I'm in the group that why can't we just consider it? I'm also skeptical of people using it.
Right.
People like being in their car with their
right.
podcast and a casual drive to the Twin Cities is a nice thing to do sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe there'd be a workforce element to it that, hey, I'm going to work in Eden Prairie and jump on the train for an hour and I can be on my Wi-Fi and my computer doing work on the train.
You can work on the train, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's another economics lesson. You want to have a workforce that can move around to different jobs to keep the labor market competitive, and saying, I could work in Eden Prairie. It's only an hour away.
My daughter works on the train.
Yeah.
She drives. She takes a train from, she lives in Cambridge into downtown Boston.
Yeah.
It's like a half-hour ride, but she can work on the train.
Yep. So interesting. And another city issue came up. Sounds like, when they did this merging of the city and the school district offices, right, in the old JCPenney building downtown 20 years ago, they didn't expect maybe to have this much growth, and so there's need for more space. And that'll be interesting to see how that goes. That was one of the great instances of intergovernmental cooperation, I think, in this city, where people just got together and said, let's just share space, They tried to do that with the law enforcement center in the Blue Earth County, police headquarters, sheriff's headquarters, and we ended up having two. So I think there were people who were talking about that for a while, trying to, why didn't they just have one building? But, so it doesn't always work out when you want to cooperate in government. There's a lot of silos and that sort of thing, but it'll be interesting to see what comes of this. And it's been a great reuse of that property, of that building, the JCPenney building and all that downtown mall. So could have just hit the wrecking ball, but didn't. So interesting. A story I know is close to your heart, and was a great story by Kevin Dudley, our sports guy, on longtime West coach Don Krusemark retiring finally from coaching softball.
Yeah, he's kind of a legend. I mean, he's won a couple of state championships. He's coached, I don't remember what the combined number of teams and seasons he's coached, but it's some ridiculously high number. all his players loved to play for him. It was a great story by Kevin because he kind of captured that feeling about what the players think about their coach, and it's not always that's not always that way with a coach. He's and I have interviewed him. We had a piece about coaching in the magazine about a year ago, and the same thing. He brought a few of his players in, and he left the room, and they just gushed about
Oh,
him.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's great. I enjoyed reading that story, and high school athletics, of course, I was involved in. You were involved in, and it's something special that you're always glad you did in high school because you built up friendships that last a long time. You built up friendships with the coach. When you see your old coach, I know you've communicated with some of your old coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, really cool. He coached wrestling, right, and softball, girls softball, won championships,
Baseball.
and baseball,
Yep.
and his players just said he tried to have a good relationship with every kid, whether starter, bench player, and kept things light, which isn't always easy
Yeah.
in high school.
And I think he passed that on to his son, Brady, who's the music teacher at West. And Brady kind of has the same approach in the band room.
Nice.
All the students have, well, at least the ones that I know, for the most part, have good things to say about Brady and the way he taught kids. So
Yeah, you had a good story we were talking about before we came on about Don having the photo of his high school or college athletes of the year.
yeah.
Tell that story.
So when we did the story about in the Mankato magazine about a year ago about coaching, Don Krusemark was one of our 3 examples, and he mentioned he was one of the athletes of the year at his college. He went to Indiana State University, and he pulled out the issue of the student newspaper where they had him as the athlete of the year, and there were two other male athletes of the year. One of which was Larry Bird,
The Larry Bird.
And the other was the gymnast Kurt Thomas. So
Wow.
Don was among, and Kurt Thomas was an Olympian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you're into gymnastics, he's a very, very big name in that sport. So, yeah, Don was in good company in that issue.
Wow. I guess, and then he became a legendary coach
Mm-hmm.
to teach others. And I liked his quote in the story. It wasn't really about championships or winning. It was helping people get to the next stage of life and be successful at whatever they did.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. A great story. If you haven't read it, I would go to our website where you can find all the stories we publish every day and read that one. Google it. You can Google it also. And in fact, we encourage you to subscribe, obviously, to this great journalism again. But I think our website allows you to just pay for one day. Like, I don't know if it's $2 or whatever it is, but you can do that. And certainly some of these stories are worth, popping in and catching. So, yeah, and then we just want to preview probably some upcoming things. We're continuing our music series podcast that our photo editor, Casey Eck, is producing. We had published the first one, which was a local band, and we bring them to the Free Press building, and on a Sunday when it's real quiet, and Casey sets up lighting, sound, and they just do about 15 minutes of some of their music, and then we interview them for a little bit so they can tell us about their music, and we do a story. We put it on YouTube channel, our website, and I know we've got about 4 of them in the bank now, so you need to be starting to watch for these. And incidentally, we were looking for a sponsor for this music podcast. So if you're in the music business, you may want to consider this. You can call our advertising department, 344-6364, to check out sponsoring. But who we've got coming up, Nightingale.
Well, first we have Tyler Herwig.
He's
coming up. He'll be
Tuesday.
He'll be live Tuesday on
Tuesday.
on our YouTube page.
Okay, Tyler Herwig. And we got Joe Tugas and Ann Fee, very popular group singing. We have Squid City Singers coming up, and those are all geared up, ready to go. So you want to be on the watch if you want to hear some of this great music we're producing locally. And the purpose of this is to, let people know there's great music in town, but also give the bands a little boost in their publicity. And we've got, thousands, 29,000 people on our Facebook page. We're building an Instagram audience that is really picking up. I think it's close to 1,000 now. And we're getting our analytics are showing that people are watching these shows and staying with them. So it's another way for us to reach out and bring to you all the good things that Mankato can offer.
Is there another lecture series?
There is another lecture series. A week from this coming Tuesday, we're going to have an MSU professor expert who's going to talk about AI, artificial intelligence, right? And it's such a big topic. He's going to really try to narrow it down for things that you'd see every day to a general audience on how it affects you, the pros and the cons of it. I'm really excited about it. I was emailing with him back and forth, and it sounds like he's really enthusiastic about it. He has a podcast about it, and that'll be cool. That'll be coming up, continuing to do that.
Sounds good.
So that's about all I have. I want to just remind listeners, you can subscribe to the Free Press by going to the Free Press website, clicking on the subscribe button at the top. You can just email us and say, hey, I want to subscribe, readerservice@mankatofreepress.com. Or you just want to call and say, sign me up, 625-3764. Many people don't know we also offer photo reprints. You can order photo reprints right off our website on the reprint button, or you can call our partner in this, SPX Sports, 345-7196. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.